Hi, I'm Maggie.
And I'm Marin, and you're listening to
Girlhood Movie Database.
a podcast where we deconstruct and muse on depictions of girlhood in film, literature, and other media.
A feminist celebration of pop culture, the audacity of youth, and the ways we grow away from and into our bodies, beliefs, and dreams for ourselves and each other.
And today we are discussing
Love and basketball.
yay for love individually and yay for basketball individually.
Yeah.
I like basketball. I don't know what Maggie's feelings on basketball are.
My feelings on basketball are the same as my feelings with all sports, neutral. Except for when it comes to football, I actually kind of really hate football.
I also hate football. I think it is so boring.
I hate all of it. Yeah. The violence of it and how those players are physically put through the fucking ringer and they like have long-term issues.
Yeah. It's the sport where you're probably putting yourself at the most risk for long-term brain damage, but there's also lots of sports that are really violent.
Yeah.
So
like hockey is also
yeah,
pretty violent. But I like hockey.
the last hockey game I went to, there was beef, I think, between two players from the opposite teams that was from a previous game or something. So literally the second the clock started, these two dudes just started wailing on each other and drew blood. And someone had to come out and scratch the blood off the ice. And the crowd was going nuts. I was immediately all in. I'm like, yes, this is why I'm here.
No, I know. Like I talk about football being violent, but hockey is just as violent, but I enjoy hockey. It just is a faster pace.
Yeah.
I have really no excuses for being entertained by watching violence in real time.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it. But I grew up watching a lot of basketball because my brother played basketball throughout his entire childhood and adolescence. So I was going to multiple games a week and as a result just know a lot about basketball, even though I myself was never good at it. I did play in the 3rd and 4th grade and was terrible. But we're not here to talk about my shitty basketball skills. We're here to talk about the very impressive basketball skills on display in this movie, Love and Basketball, directed and written by Gina Prince-Bythewood. This was her feature debut. She also directed the movies The Secret Life of Bees, Beyond the Lights, The Old Guard, and The Woman King, which I have seen all of those movies except The Old Guard. Have you seen any of those movies?
No, I haven't.
We could honestly probably cover most, if not all of her filmography on this show.
Yeah.
It would align with what we do, which is cool. Love and Basketball was released April 21st, 2000. Today is April 19th when we're recording this, April 19th, 2025. So we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of this movie. That's cool. And a poster tagline, we have all's fair in love and basketball.
I love it.
I do too. I
freaking love it. No notes. It's perfect.
And they say it in the movie twice, but like the way they say it in the movie is totally not corny. The first time is kind of sexy because Monica says it in a like flirty like way to him. And then it comes back later. Do you want to read our log line?
Sure. Monica Wright and Quincy McCall grew up in the same neighborhood and have known each other since childhood. As they grow into adulthood, they fall in love, but they also share another all-consuming passion, basketball. As Quincy and Monica struggle to make their relationship work, they follow separate career paths through high school and college basketball, and, they hope, into stardom in big league professional ball.
I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I like the theatricality of it. Also, because sport is theater.
Absolutely.
And I think this movie kind of gets at that. I'm sorry. It's just to be doing an episode about a normal functional movie after
I know.
the Twilight fiasco. It just feels weird. I keep expecting us to have ridiculous asides every 5 seconds like we did in those episodes, and we don't, because this movie is normal.
No, that's a really good point. Because I've been like, well, I feel like I should have something to say, but I don't, because things are making sense.
Things are
like, this adds up. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. I do have things to say once we get into it, but
right, but I don't have just constant critique of every moment.
Yeah, and we're not going to be invoking the Bible or anything. At least I won't be. I shouldn't speak for Maggie. It's just different vibe. We'll get it. We'll be fine. I do have a little synopsis of this movie for all you people who haven't seen it and don't want to pause the episode to go read the Wikipedia page, because I do know that is extra effort, and I probably wouldn't want to have to pause to go read the Wikipedia page myself, which is why I do this labor for you. Okay, this movie, Love and Basketball, it starts with a short prologue where we meet Monica and Quincy when they are young children. Monica's family has just moved in next door to Quincy's family. They both love basketball. Q, as he is called, his dad is a professional basketball player, but even as a little young boy, Q is threatened and shocked by the fact that Monica is a girl who is such an assertive basketball player. She like comes up and is like, "Hey, can I join your game?" And they're like, "Sure." And they think she's a boy, and then eventually they realize she's a girl, and the boys all freak out. And then we fast forward to 1988 when Monica and Q are seniors in high school. They're played by Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps. They both still play basketball. They both still live next door to each other. Q has already been recruited to play college ball at USC, though he's really itching to just go pro right away. Is that a rooster crowing?
Yes.
Okay. There is a rooster crowing outside where we're recording, so I doubt you can hear that.
I don't think it won't come through the mic. Okay. It's been really loud lately.
I was like, am I going nuts? Or what does that sound?
No, it's been like all fucking day lately. It's annoying.
I don't know anything about rooster behavior, so I don't know if that's normal.
I don't either, but it didn't used to do that, so.
Okay, well, I hope it's okay then. Rooster.
It's fine.
Okay. Where was I? Okay. Q has been recruited to play college ball at USC. Monica really wants to be recruited to play college basketball, but she has not been recruited yet, so she's really stressed about that. And at this point, Monica and Q, I would say they're friends, but it's sort of in an antagonistic way. They don't run in the same social circles, but they clearly have a rapport with each other. For example, after a game, Monica just goes up to him and is like, "You're giving me a ride home." And he kind of gives her attitude about it, but then ultimately is like, "Okay." And then in the car ride, they banter the whole time. And at one point, Q's parents are fighting and he can't sleep because they're just yelling so much. And so he opens his bedroom window, climbs out, knocks on Monica's bedroom window, and then goes into her room, and we see him just plop on the floor to go to sleep. So we suddenly are like, oh, okay, there's this familiarity and intimacy that has been here for a long time. We know that's not the first time that's happened to him. So that's where their relationship is at. Intimate, but still complicated by the social strata of high school. And then at their spring dance, they go with different people as dates, but there's a lot of intense eye contact from across the room and stuff. And there's lots of tension. And then later that night, Q sits with Monica as she opens an envelope from USC, which contains her acceptance to USC to play on their basketball team. So it's obviously a very celebratory moment. They kiss, they have sex for the first time. They go to USC together, very much in love. Q is the star freshman. There's a lot of talk already about him going pro. Meanwhile, Monica clashes more with her coach and her teammates. She learns that she wasn't a first pick recruit, that she only made the team because someone else gave up their spot. And that really affects her confidence. Q learns that his parents' marriage is falling apart due to his father's infidelity, which affects his basketball playing. And then due to that and other external pressures, Monica and Q break up. And then the final act of the movie takes place 5 years later in 1993 when Q and Monica are both playing pro. Though Monica is playing in Spain because the WNBA was not founded yet. And her team wins a championship, but she still feels lonely and unfulfilled. So she returns back to Los Angeles. She visits Q in the hospital after she learns that he tore his ACL. She learns he's engaged. She's upset by this despite all the years since they have been together. He also tells her that he's not sure he wants to play basketball again after his injury because he's not sure if he even likes it anymore. And so eventually Monica tells him that she still loves him. She doesn't want him to marry someone else. And he agrees to call off his wedding if he loses a one-on-one game with her. And he wins. But then he says double or nothing. And in that moment decides to call off his wedding and be with Monica instead. And then at the end of the movie, we see Monica playing in the WNBA. And Q watches courtside with their daughter in his lap. And we feel nice inside.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, that was a good movie. The end.
Yay!
Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, just that his fiance was
Tyra
Banks.
I had no idea.
Man, Tyra Banks, I don't know where she is now or what
Me
she is
neither.
doing,
I don't
but
know.
let me tell you, did she traumatize an entire generation of women on America's Next Top Model in a way that is very humorous now? I'm able to watch it and like laugh. But at the time, we were really watching that. We're like, yeah, she's fat. And it's an unwell woman. So thin.
Yeah. Well, that is why. And I've told you this. The one show I was explicitly forbidden from watching was America's Next Top Model when I was a child. We didn't have cable, so I didn't have access to that much TV to begin with. The chances of me seeing something really violent or sexual were pretty slim. But my dad caught me watching that one time and said, absolutely, you cannot watch that show. It will destroy your sense of self.
Yeah, he was right.
But I was an avid watcher of the Tyra show, which was her talk show, which aired weekdays at 4 p.m. or whatever on the WB, if I recall correctly, which then became the CW. And I loved that show. But even that, I watched in secret because she had some pretty scandalous topics that she covered. There was an episode, which in hindsight, this is so horrible, but at the time, I remember seeing the preview for it and being like, oh my God, I need to watch this. The panel of guests on the show were teens who had been caught by their parents sexting. And so it was meant to be this PSA informative episode about sexting. But really, in hindsight, I'm like, this was just a lot of slut shaming. And these girls are 15, 16 going on national television to talk about how they were caught sexting. But 12-year-old me was just glued to the screen because the idea of people doing that was so wild to me. And that's what I always now will associate Tyra Banks with sexting.
Yeah. No, that is horrible. They're children.
Right.
They're literal children, and you're asking for them to talk about their sexual desires on the world stage, right? The whole world was watching the fucking Tyra show, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That act to me feels like a form of sexual harassment.
I see what you mean.
To be like, tell us what you've done, tell us what you've said and why.
Right. But yeah, Tyra Banks shows up for 10 minutes in this movie.
It's jarring. It's distracting because all of this history. We just mention her and now we pull out like all this baggage.
She is a very culturally loaded figure.
Yeah.
I have no idea what she does now. She's probably richer than God at this point. So probably doesn't like need to work.
And not to put all the blame on Tyra. I'm not saying, you know, she created misogyny or anything, or she created these institutions that put women in these positions. She was just the face.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all believing the things that she was saying. It's not as if I was speaking out against it. We were all just victims of the early 2000s.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Do you have a specific origin story you would like to share for Love and Basketball? I don't know what your relationship is to this movie outside of us deciding to talk about it today.
I don't have one. I had never seen it. And of course, I knew that it existed. Mm-hmm. I've just never been very interested in sports, except for Space Jam.
I was going to bring up Space Jam.
I have never really been drawn to a movie that had sports in it, again, besides Space Jam, which is such a fucking weird movie. I loved it so much as a kid, and I watched it so many times.
Dude, I could not tell you how many times I have seen Space Jam.
The soundtrack.
I know.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I can't listen to R. Kelly anymore, as a lot of people can't, but that song at the beginning, I believe I can fly. It's really good.
That brought me to tears as a child.
Exactly.
I was like, I believe I can fly too. But my younger sister, who's now a PE teacher and athletic director and coach, played basketball throughout high school.
Okay.
And so I've been to a lot of basketball games.
Gotcha.
I spent a lot of times going to basketball games. We'd have the whole basketball team over to our house for like sleepovers and stuff. And I was just this weird idiot artist up in my room listening to punk rock.
Yep.
It's a world I'm familiar with, but it never was mine.
Interesting.
Yes.
So we're kind of in the same boat then, in terms of having these siblings that were very involved and our exposure to it being that way. I had also never seen this movie, but I feel like I've known about it forever. I think I never saw it as a kid because it was like a bit before my time and I was kind of young for the movie, so I never saw it. But I watched Space Jam all the fucking time. That was my go-to basketball movie, sports movie, really, if we're being honest. But so many stills from Love and Basketball are just burned in my brain. Like the poster image where they're kissing and they're both holding the ball above their head. I feel like I've always known that image existed. Or the one when Monica returns home after she's been in Spain and she sees that photo on her shelf of her and Q and they're playing basketball and he has his arms around her. That image has always existed in my brain. I don't know when I first saw it. And it reached a point where I felt like I was like, how have I not seen this movie? I thought I had seen it, but I hadn't. So this was my first time watching it. I watched it twice, actually. And I think this movie is good. I understand why it's a classic. I get why it has endured in the pantheon of sports movies. I believe it has a Criterion release.
I don't know what that means.
Criterion is a brand that does special releases of certain DVDs. It's like a very film buff thing. They do a lot of really good work with restoring and curating older movies, international cinema, and just championing a lot of great films that are art. So, Love and Basketball is in there. I believe. I'm like 99% sure. If I'm wrong, I'll take this out. But so you can buy a special edition of Love and Basketball on DVD.
Nice.
That comes with a lot of probably cool special features. Where do you want to start?
I just have random thoughts.
Okay. I want to hear your main thought. I don't care how random it is.
Okay. It's definitely directly related. I don't have a fully formed argument or anything. It's just something I could not stop thinking about as I was watching it.
Okay.
So while I was watching this, I kept thinking, why isn't Monica, and in retrospect, it sounds kind of stupid, but I was like, why isn't Monica's goal to play in the WNBA? And I had to look it up. I was like, wait, I bet the WNBA didn't exist. I saw an interview where Gina Prince-Bythewood was talking about that. And she's like, when I started writing this movie, the WNBA did not exist. And so the ending came about in real time,
That's cool. I didn't know that.
where like the WNBA existed by the time the movie was being made. And so that's why at the end, Monica is playing in the WNBA.
Mm-hmm. And why at the beginning of the movie, when she's a little girl, she says she wants to be the first woman in the NBA because the WNBA did not exist. Because the WNBA has existed for my entire life. But obviously it had to be founded at some point, just like the NBA had to be founded at some point. Basketball had to be invented. Sometimes we have to remember that these cultural touchstones, these cultural institutions, they had to be created.
Yeah.
And it's just really weird to think about. And obviously, because sexism, the WNBA would be created much later than the NBA.
1996
Okay.
is when it was founded.
Wow. That was the year my brother was born, and my brother is 28.
I would have been 8 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I was born during the Cold War, technically. The Cold War was happening. And then the WNBA didn't exist. It makes me feel so old. I don't know why those two things were connected, but we just think about our history as being so long ago, and it really isn't. We're all born into different forms of violence and oppression. And the WNBA not existing is a form of violence and oppression.
Mm-hmm. It was also really interesting to watch this movie in 2025 when in the past 2 years there's been this sudden surge in interest in women's basketball in the U.S. Obviously, there are people who have paid attention to women's basketball for a long time, but like the women's NCAA tournament, March Madness tournament was suddenly getting like mainstream national news coverage last year. And everyone was like, okay, what team is Caitlin Clark going to play on? What team is Angel Reese going to get drafted onto? And that has carried over this year. With how recent that surge in interest has been, it really makes you appreciate that Gina Prince-Bythewood was writing and directing this movie 25 years before that, centered around this female athlete who is really ambitious and assertive and is very clear-headed about what her dreams are. Something else I really like about this movie is that I think it is very smart about exploring how women's sports are treated versus men's sports. And I think it does a lot of that exploration more implicitly, by which I mean we see a scene of Q playing college ball for USC, and we see the giant arena he's in. We see how huge the crowd is. All the cheerleaders are there. And then the next scene is a scene of Monica playing for USC, and she's in this way dingier gym. It's just like wooden bleachers. It's not stadium seating. There's way fewer people there. And so we're just given these two images showcasing the disparity in resources being given to them. And that's all we get. She trusts the audience to understand what is being conveyed through those images. She doesn't feel the need to make some character like comment on it, which I really appreciated. Monica has to move to another continent in order to play professional ball. Her other teammates talk about going overseas to play pro. And sometimes like you watch that and you don't know yet that the WNBA doesn't exist. So you're like, oh, why do you have to go overseas to play ball? And the movie doesn't necessarily give you that information outright, but it's nudging you to figure it out for yourself. And I think being able to implicitly examine the differences in how female and male athletes are treated hones the point further, because it like makes it more irrefutable as opposed to a person just like saying it.
Yeah. At no point are they like, well, the WNBA exists now, so now I can.
Right.
We just see her there with him on the sidelines, which I imagine we'll talk about opinions on his character and her decision to be with him despite his character flaws. But for me, what makes them forgivable is one, I mean, you know, we're all human. We're all like flawed, but like in a film where characters end up together, I want to see some real resolve. And honestly, I don't think we really get that from him.
We don't. I would agree we don't.
But the fact that he's on the sidelines with their daughter and she's the one in the WNBA, that's what makes it forgivable to me. I'm like, okay, well, she got her fucking career and dream, and you're on the sidelines where you should be supporting her. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is the unconventional choice, obviously, to have the film end with her being still a professional athlete and him not being that. But I think that choice speaks to what more broadly I really enjoy about this movie is that it's not a typical inspirational sports narrative movie with the formula we're used to, which I think is a very enjoyable formula. I like watching sports movies where it's the underdog player or the underdog team or whatever, and it's centered around one specific game or one specific tournament or one specific season, and you're building up to this very specific climactic moment where you win the game, you win the championship, you kiss the love interest on the side of the court afterwards, and that's where the movie ends. And this movie eschews that structure completely. And I think what that choice allows it to do is it's a sports movie, but it's also a romance, but it's also a coming of age movie. And it's less about the fleeting feeling of winning that one game or making that one team or getting the first kiss with the person you love. And it's more about what does it mean to be ambitious? What does it mean to love an ambitious person? What kind of growth and work does it take for two ambitious people to be together and make it work? And so the fact that Q's entire character trajectory ends with him falling out of love with basketball and deciding it's time for me to turn a new leaf in my life. But despite that, I'm still want to be with you as you continue to pursue basketball. I do think that's a much richer story to be telling. And which is also why I think I feel nice inside when I see that they end up together and she's playing pro and he's watching with her daughter. I feel nice inside watching that ending, even though I do not think he groveled nearly enough to get her back. No.
Absolutely not. But I totally agree with everything you said. And I think too, what is unsaid in the film smartly is that, yeah, he did realize that maybe basketball and his desire to play basketball was more about the expectations he had for himself and that the world had for him because of who his dad was.
Right.
It was this sort of like generational place of honor that he was meant to live up to. And I think at some point he realized maybe that's not what I want. Maybe I just want to raise my daughter and be in love with this woman and watch her success, you know? And I think that is really beautiful. But something you said about ambition made me want to talk about, like, off of that, speak off of that. Because I totally agree. I think that this film, it is about what does it mean to love somebody who has this ambition, who is so ambitious. And I also think it wants us to ask questions about what does it mean to be successful? And I think about that scene. It's such a good fucking scene too, where Monica comes home and she's talking to her mom in the kitchen and her mom's like cooking dinner. And Monica very clearly feels that her mother has given up her own dreams to be a mother, to take care of her and her sister. And her mother's like, no, I got to do this. I had the privilege of caring for you. I got to help you get ready for school. I got to see you grow. I love that this movie makes room for women to define their own versions of what it means to be successful and what it means to be ambitious. And what are our ambitions, right? Her mother's ambitions were to be a mother, and that's admirable. And I just think it does it so well without falling into this conversation about toxic choice feminism, where mom's like, no, being a mother is better. And Monica's like, no, being a mother is better. No, they just both realize they're two women that had different ideas about what a fulfilling life looked like.
I think that's a really good point, because it's not a movie that's ever feels like it's about posing that very tired question of, can women have it all? Can you be a mom and a wife and also a successful career woman? Like, it's just, that's such a boring view of the world and womanhood. And I like that you've brought up that conversation between Monica and her mom, who Monica's mom is played by the great, great legend Alfre Woodard, who I watch anything that she's in. And what that conversation also illuminates is just how personal ambition is, and how sometimes it's really difficult to have someone else understand what your ambition is. Because when Monica says she feels like her mom has sidelined herself, it's because Monica's mom loves to cook and bake. And it's like alluded to that at one point, maybe a goal of hers was to have her own catering business, or like she loves not just cooking and baking for her family, but like for parties and for other people. Like, she's really good at it, and she finds a lot of fulfillment in doing it. And Monica feels like, because that talent and passion never transformed into this business or this career, because it mostly stayed contained to serving her children and her husband, she feels like it has been wasted to a certain extent. And then Monica's mom has to step in and be like, I don't feel like it was wasted, because the fact that I got to make 3 meals a day for my family, that was important to me. And that was an act of love and passion. And it's a really pivotal moment where Monica realizes she's been misunderstanding her mother for her whole life. And I think Monica's mom also has to confront the ways she has misunderstood Monica, because Monica in that same conversation expresses hurt that her mom never really seemed interested in her basketball, that her mom didn't go to a lot of the games. And at one point when we see Monica's mom at a high school basketball game, she's just reading a book the whole time. And Monica's mom's like, you didn't care that I wasn't there. You had your coaches, you had your teammates, you had your dad, you had your sister, you had all these people in the stands cheering for you. You didn't care that I was there. And Monica has to be like, no, but I did care. I did wish you were there. And so it's this really beautiful scene of them both being able to communicate and express themselves so they can understand each other better. Mm-hmm. Which is just always nice to see, because that's just something that is hard to do.
Yeah, I think in that scene, we see them seeing each other for the first time. And it's really beautiful. I was getting a little teary-eyed just with you describing it again. And because it's just the scene of like us seeing them seeing each other, we get to see them as full humans. They're not just characters meant to portray some kind of specific political agenda we have about what feminism should look like, or what it can be, or what women should be allowed or able to do. They're able to just exist inside of themselves, inside of their relationship with each other. And we don't get all of the noise about who should be doing what. We hear some of that noise in the conversation with each other about their expectations that they had for one another, but it's filtered through love and their desire to understand each other and be understood. And I think it's just a really powerful moment.
Mm-hmm. It is. I did want to ask you about the way that Quincy's parents talk about women. Because to go back to my earlier point about the ways I think this movie is examining the differences in how female and male athletes are viewed, there's this idea that Monica's athleticism makes her like less attractive, less appealing, whereas Q's athleticism turns him into this sex symbol. And we see that professional male athletes are expected in this world to be sex symbols. That's something Q's dad talks about. The girls who follow you out of the arena and then they manage to make it to your hotel and one of them knocks on your door. And what else was I supposed to do except fuck her? Which that's a whole other, you could have just not fucked her. But there's also conversations in their household about this assumption that male athletes are specifically pursued romantically by women due to their wealth and status. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen or that it wouldn't be hurtful to fall in love with someone and then you learn that they don't actually love you. They just want your money. I don't wish that to happen to people. But Q's mom specifically, she warns him to be careful with the girls that he dates because he's a little flirt and all the girls want him. And he's a chick magnet for to use a term of the 2000s. And his mom tells him, like, be careful. Those girls see you and they see dollar signs. And so she's making an assumption about the character of these girls based on her family's socioeconomic class and her husband's fame. And I wonder if the movie wants us to think part of what makes Monica the right girl for Quincy is that we know she's not like that. She's just all about the ball. She's not about the status that comes with being a professional basketball player. And I don't know, it's just interesting that it does feel like the movie is maybe making a distinction between Monica and quote unquote those other girls. And so I was curious if you picked up on that or have any thoughts about that.
I think that definitely exists. And well, it obviously exists. I don't mean it like that, but that I noticed it. And I really, even before we get to that conversation between Q and his mom and the way that his dad talks about women, we have that scene where Monica and Q are in the car and he's driving her home. And the way that even Monica is talking about that girl who wants to get with Q.
Shawnee, played by Gabrielle Union in one scene.
Yes. I mean, it's slut shaming.
It is. It is. Because what happens is Q is playing in a game. Monica is sitting in the stands watching. Shawnee is sitting behind her and gives Monica this note and is like, hey, can you give this note to Q? I want to take him to the spring dance. And I know you're his neighbor or whatever. Can you give this to him? Because again, this was pre-texting, pre-social media. You had to write a note and face rejection in the flesh. And Monica's like, okay, fine. And so Monica tells Q that he's giving her a ride home. They're in the car. They're talking. And she's like, by the way, I have this note from Shawnee. She's trying to get with you. And then Monica reads the note and then proceeds to call her a hoe. Because the note is like, hey, I think you're cute. I want to go to this dance with you. I don't remember exactly what the note says. But I did write down this line because it did make me laugh, even though I understand why it is problematic when she calls Shawnee a hoe. Q's like, why is she a hoe? And Monica says, she's a hoe because she's sending her coochie through the mail. It did make me chuckle, but it hasn't aged well, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's the context for the scene that you're talking about.
And I think, though, what softens my feelings towards that scene, well, not that it makes it okay, but again, I think these characters are very human, is that Monica and Q do have feelings for each other. We know that. They have little crushes on each other that they haven't been able to really admit at this point. And Monica's jealous. And so she wants to call Shawnee a hoe.
I can totally understand movies being products of the times in which they were made. And I've also talked like that at one point in my life, especially when I was younger. And so I'm willing to extend grace to Monica as a character and the movie as a whole, because I was like, this is where we were at, and we can now watch it and talk about how we have hopefully moved beyond this, but we should still talk about where we were at at the same time.
Because it didn't change the way that I feel about the movie. It didn't change the good feelings that I got from it.
Right.
It was not a defining moment by any means. Like you said, I understood it as, a product of its time, and it was just a quick scene. And honestly, it was funny.
It was.
So
It was funny because they have good chemistry. They have good banter. Yeah. And I don't want Shawnee to get with Q either. I want Q to get with Monica.
No.
So in that sense, the movie is doing its job right. It's being effective at making me want the characters it wants me to get together.
Yeah. And I mean, she's a teenager. They're teenagers.
Right.
And she likes him, and she's meant to give him this note from another girl who wants to get with him. I'm sorry.
I was honestly shocked that she even read the note. I was almost expecting her to just trash it or something. So the fact that she didn't abuse that power, she got more character than maybe I would have had in that moment. I don't know.
I might just, lose the note too. Yeah. But
conveniently forget about it.
It's also funny to me that it is a note. Part of what makes that line so funny, she's sending her coochie through the mail, it is of its time. Who sends a note these days? But back then, that's what you did. Mm-hmm. Hey, will you give this note to your friend? Mm-hmm. I think they're cute.
It's like in The Incredibly True Adventure of Two Girls in Love when Randy puts the note in Evie's locker and then is freaking out to her boss about it and is like, what if it wasn't actually her locker and it's someone else's? What if she saw it and doesn't care? And her whole day is just consumed by this little note. And it's so charming. And the fact that Shawnee, even though I don't want her to be with Q, the fact that she was like, I'll write this little note to this boy and shoot my shot. I'm like, good for you.
She seems so confident about it though. But maybe behind the scenes, she was like, oh my God, what if he doesn't like me?
Probably. She was probably really sad when Q took her home from the dance early and then found out that he was with Monica the next day.
Yeah, which is very high school.
I know. And I do have to remind myself when I think about Q's character that when he and Monica break up, they are freshmen in college. They're probably 18, 19 years old, max. But I don't like the way he treats her, the way he contorts it so she thinks it's her fault that they're breaking up. And I would have liked some more direct acknowledgement of that when they reconnect 5 years later. They acknowledge it a little bit when he's like, listen, things were messed up back then. I wasn't good to be with anyone. But he doesn't explicitly say, I'm sorry. Which, as we have established on this show, is the bare minimum I want when people hurt each other.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And also that fucking scene where Monica goes over to Q's and then that random girl shows up and he's like, oh yeah, you want to come? It's
weird.
I'm like, what? Monica, punch him. What? This is bizarre. This is very strange behavior.
Yeah.
He's being an asshole.
He is. And so, okay, I realized I didn't explain this in my overview. So Q finds out that there is a paternity suit against his dad. And the dad says the kid's not his. But in this conversation, Q asks him, is the kid yours? And the dad's like, no, I can't believe you would even ask me that. Everything is fine. This will be fine. And then Q goes home, finds his mom crying, And his mom has hired a private investigator who has obtained photos of Q's dad having affairs. So it's confirmed that not only has Q's dad been unfaithful and this image that he's had of his dad is shattered, but his dad fully lied to him, was like, I've always been faithful to your mom. Like, I would never cheat, blah, blah, blah. And he's really disturbed by how easily his dad could lie to him about this. And so he's confiding all of this in Monica, and they're having a conversation about it. They're sitting outside somewhere on campus talking, and she tells him that her coach has set an 11 o'clock curfew for the entire team because they have a game the next morning. So she's like, I have to go because if I miss curfew, I won't get to play. And he knows that she has struggled a lot more to assimilate to her team than him. And the fact that she's getting more playing time now is a really big deal. And he's just really immature about it. I don't know. She offers for him to come back with her to her dorm so they can keep talking. She provides an alternative solution, right? And he says, no, I should just be alone right now. And she's like, okay, fine, good night. And then the next day at some party, he's flirting with some random girl. And she's like, what's up with that? And he's just in a bad mood. And then the next day she goes over to see him and they're talking. And then that girl shows up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm taking her out. And she gets mad. And then later they have a full fight. And he just accuses her of being neglectful and not being supportive enough. And she literally says at one point, whatever I did, I can fix this. She believes him when he's basically telling her that it's your fault that I'm mad and that I had to go flirt with this other girl to get your attention because you weren't giving me enough attention. Even though he's the one who's being, in my opinion, totally unreasonable and immature. And again, they were like 19. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've all done things when we were young. And by the time they reconnect, when it's 5 years later, like, can that be water under the bridge? Maybe. But also it's the entire, or not the entire, but it's a big reason why your relationship didn't work out the first time. So if you're going to resume your relationship after this time apart, shouldn't you at least acknowledge in some way what drove you apart in the first place? That's where I struggle.
Yeah. The way that the events unfold in the film, I don't think that we're even meant to think that they had a conversation about it before they play that basketball game. Mm-mm. And she's like, you know, let's play for your heart.
Yeah. She's like, don't marry Tyra. Choose me.
Yeah.
Let's play basketball. Duke it out.
But also it has been a long time. And they were really young.
Yeah.
I didn't really mean punch him in the face, okay? I don't condone violence in a relationship. That's not a way to handle your problems. I'm not saying that. But I just meant it like, I expected an outburst.
He deserved to be chewed out.
Yeah.
In some way and be left speechless.
Yeah.
And left to sit with what he did.
A metaphorical punch in the face. Mm-hmm. I expected theatrics, but also, honestly, what can you say?
Yeah.
He's being, what the fuck? It was so weird. It was so awkward.
Yeah.
She just sort of shows up and there's no explanation. Mm-hmm. I had to do this to get your attention.
Yeah.
What?
And he's like, it didn't even matter. I just took her to Burger King. You still took another girl on a date while you were in a relationship.
Well, and then when they get to, I'm sorry, red flags, because then he's literally engaged to Tyra fucking Banks.
Yeah.
And then calls off the wedding for her.
I know. And that's also where these questions about, for lack of a better term, gold diggers come up. Because Monica's mom at one point, when she learns Quincy's engaged, she is taken aback. She's like, her? She's not good enough for him. He could do way better than her. And we don't really have any reason to believe that. The only information we've been given about Tyra is that she's a flight stewardess. So she's a working woman, does not work a job of means. I'm assuming doesn't come from means. I feel like what we're supposed to take away is that the only reason she'd want to be with a professional basketball player is because of the lifestyle that could provide.
I didn't even think about that, actually, with her. It didn't even cross my mind that we were supposed to think that as an audience. But now that you're saying it, that...
And the only reason I say that is because we're literally given no other information about her character. We don't see any other ways in which they might be incompatible or anything.
We get that scene where Monica sees them backing up.
Yeah.
And she like doesn't, was it a basketball or what is it? It's something that she's like, we don't need this.
It's a giant cue that he has on his wall. It's like a little shrine to himself. And she's like, no, no, no. And I guess he confides in Monica that as he has been going through rehab for his ACL injury, he's not sure he wants to play basketball anymore. And he says that, I can't remember her name, so I'm just going to keep calling her Tyra. He says that Tyra doesn't know that, and he's not sure if she'll like that. I don't know. I think we're meant to question why she's with him.
Okay.
And I think we're meant to question it on a financial basis.
Okay.
And that also feels very of its time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I didn't think about it, and I thought we were just meant to be like, oh, they're not really compatible. But with the emphasis more being on like Monica and Q so clearly are compatible. Right. But I can see where maybe the movie is wanting us to think about Tyra as having expectations about the kind of lifestyle she would have if they were to be married.
But based on what we see of her, though, she seems very lovely.
Yeah.
She's in the hospital with him. And when Monica comes to visit, she's not threatened by Monica's presence. It's not clear what she knows about their past, but she does say, oh, you guys grew up together, right? So I don't know. I hope that Tyra found a nice life after Q dumped her 2 weeks before their wedding.
Yeah.
But to go back to what causes Q and Monica to break up the first time and how I think he really overreacts to her supposedly not giving him enough attention. It also just strikes me as quintessential only child behavior because he is an only child. And he has grown up in a family that has always been in the spotlight. He is used to being in the spotlight because of his athleticism. So I think you could read his outburst and the fallout from that as all being wrapped up in that. And then the fact that by the end of the movie, he has grown enough to not be in the spotlight anymore, to be on the sidelines while she plays professional ball. And he no longer does that. That growth does speak for itself, I think. I just wanted him to say, I'm sorry that I did that. Even though it was 5 years ago and we were kids, I'm still sorry that I did that.
I imagine that he did eventually.
Yeah.
They would have had to have those conversations.
I know.
But I wish they would have happened before they played that basketball game. I wish Monica would have been like, I know you want me. I know you want to really be with me. So fucking prove it. And I guess that proof was in him being like double or nothing or whatever he says.
Yeah. And the way, because when that scene starts and she's like, I'll play you for your heart or whatever, is kind of corny, that setup. But then as the scene progresses and the score is neck and neck and that song starts playing, what is it called? I wrote it down. Fool of Me. And it's starting to go in slow motion. And at one point, he's catching up to her in score. And she realizes that he's really trying to win, which means he doesn't want to be with her. And the way at one point she grabs his shirt and kind of grimaces to try to stop him from scoring, I was immediately emotionally sucked back in. I was like, oh, I feel so heartbroken for her right now. She really wants this and she thinks that he doesn't. And she's trying to convince herself that he can want it too. And then by the end of that scene, I think it's really effective. And when he's like double or nothing, I'm like, oh, thank God. Even though I don't know if you're worthy of her, thank God.
Yeah. I think, too, what we get in that scene is he knows that he doesn't really want to play basketball anymore. I think there's something happening for him beyond just her playing for his heart. I think that he realizes it's just a sort of pinnacle moment where he's like, no, I want to play ball one more time. I want to be a basketball player one more time in this moment. And then it's not about basketball anymore. And he's like, okay, that was it. Now I just want to be with you. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But
No, I think that's a good reading of it. And if it is the last time I play basketball, then I want it to mean something. So let's have this really emotionally charged basketball game.
Yeah.
It's good. All the basketball scenes in this movie are really good. Everyone looks good. Sanaa Lathan's arms, I was like distracted by them. They're so toned. And I just think that the movie does celebrate the female athlete form in a way that's not ogling, but it does make it erotic and beautiful. I think the way that Bythewood is like filming Monica a lot of the time feels like it's pushing up against this idea that a female athlete is unappealing or unattractive because she is a deviant bodily form, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we get like, I don't know, I might call it a foil even between Monica and her sister in terms of expectations we have for women attractive, because her sister is very feminine and really pays attention to how she's presenting herself, whereas, you know, Monica is more concerned about basketball
Right.
than what she looks like.
But they don't resent each other for
No.
that difference. It's not a source of tension between them. We see Monica's sister at her games cheering for her. So she appreciates the basketball. But then also when Monica wants help doing her hair for the dance or her makeup, the sister will help her do it. And it's really nice.
Yeah. And I never get the sense that her sister's pushing her to be a certain way.
Right.
Like, this is how you should look all the time now. She's like, look, you're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Good movie.
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to say. Do you have anything?
I can just mention some thoughts I had while reading the book.
Sure.
So my intertextuality that I read is this really beautiful collection of essays. It's very poetic. They're very lyrical, by Hanif Abdurraqib, who is a poet. His writing is very poetic. The book is called There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension. And something that really struck me about reading this, and Marion, you brought it up right away, is that sports and basketball specifically is theater. There are a lot of moments where he's describing basketball games. And I was like, this is ekphrastic poetry, the way that it reads. So it gave me a new appreciation, or perhaps an appreciation at all, for the way that people really worship the game, you know, whatever that game may be, because it is theater, it is an art. There's a line in here. He talks about growing up in Ohio and being connected to the city and how basketball was so important to him and his community and so many things. It's about so many things. This book has a very giant heart and it's really beautiful. So I'd encourage you to read it. But because it's so lyrical, I'm able to take this line out of its context without entirely taking it out of its context, because there are so many contexts into which he has placed it. And the line is, with enough repetition, anything can become a religion. It doesn't matter if it works or not. It simply matters that a person returns. I was struck by the truth of that line and how we can apply it to so many different things in our lives. And specifically, of course, how we can apply it to our understanding of why people make their lives about a game. It's because it's a ritual. I know for people who play sports, I understand this is a very obvious conclusion to come to. But for someone who has never had that relationship to them, it helped me to understand the film better as well. These are rituals, right? Every game of basketball is a ritual. It's just a ritual. It is a religion. And some of those sports, I can understand how people can come to that kind of religion. Some of them, like football, for example, it just feels so brutish to me. And it's like, that's just not the right religion for me then, you know? But I could get on board with the religion of basketball.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my thought. And it's certainly like much more surface level than what the book has to offer. I'm just applying it to the film, and my relationship to sports is very surface level. So it didn't take much for me to scratch just below that surface. Yeah.
But I like that you have brought us here, because I think something I have learned in my life, and again, this is also very obvious, is that if you are passionate about something, then you can make other people care about it. I think that's what's really beautiful about something like sport, especially if you are a degree removed from it, because you're not an athlete yourself, or this wasn't the team I grew up cheering for, but then you know someone who is, and you love that person, and that makes you feel differently about this thing. And I never would have applied the word religion to it. I wouldn't have come to that conclusion independently, but I think it's really right. My partner in life and love is a runner. He's an exceptionally talented and dedicated runner. He's not a professional runner, but he is incredibly disciplined in meeting that ritual on a regular basis and becoming better at it and racing and knowing what is happening in that specific sports world. And I cannot run. Okay. Maybe if he became my trainer, and it could be in the cards for me then. But as I sit before you now, it is not in the cards for me. And that's okay. But through loving him and going to races and watching the Olympics with him or whatever, he watches races all the time because they're always happening. And he knows who these people are. And I'm like, yeah, I'll sit and watch the New York Marathon with you on TV because you love it. And this race is being filtered through you to me. And because I love you and you love this thing, there's a transference happening. That's really beautiful. And I think that is why I enjoy sport as a community endeavor as well. As an adult, I've come to enjoy watching sports more than I did even a few years ago.
Something that I think further ties in this idea that Hanif Abdurraqib has so generously provided us with through this remarkable work of literary fucking excellence. And I am thinking about my dad. It made me think about my dad, hearing you talk about watching your partner love this sport, this sort of like ritual, right? My whole family, they really, really, really love sports. I cannot stress this enough. Okay. I have been, and because of where I grew up too, I've been to Lambeau Field. I've been to a fucking preseason game for the Green Bay Packers. I fucking love the Green Bay Packers. I've been to Blackhawks games, the Sox, the Cubs, whatever. My dad loves the Cubs. And I remember asking him, I think I was probably a teenager. I don't know. It's just one of those conversations you have. And I was like, dude, they always lose. Like, why do you love the Cubs so much? He's like, that's not the point. And then, by the way, he always said that he would get a tattoo of the Cubs emblem on his bald head if they ever won the World Series. And then they did fucking win the World Series in 2016, I think, or 2017. And he didn't do it. So he's a liar. But yeah, he was like, that's not the point. And I don't think I ever fully understood what he meant until now. It's a ritual of watching. Something like else that this book does is he talks a lot about hope. It's this idea of, well, maybe, right? There's always this year, right? So I feel like I understand my dad a little bit better. Maybe my entire family, even though they still don't know what the fuck I'm about.
No, that's really nice because my dad is a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. So your dad and my dad would have.
I've been to a Cardinals game.
Yeah. My brother got peed on by a drunk person outside Busch Stadium in St. Louis after going to a Cardinals game.
That sounds right. Honestly, if you've been to Busch Stadium and you haven't been peed on, you haven't been there.
We were walking back to our hotel and some guy was like on the top floor of a parking garage peeing off of it. And my brother looked up and was like, "What is this liquid?" And it was
fantastic.
Urine.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I love baseball, which I feel like is a controversial opinion because I feel like you either love baseball or you hate baseball. And you hate baseball, Maggie. I know this.
It's so boring.
I fucking love it. And so I've been to a lot of baseball games. Whenever we would take a vacation somewhere, it would usually be somewhere we could see a professional baseball game because my dad really loves baseball. I played softball for a long time. And obviously my brother was a huge basketball player, so I've seen a lot of basketball. And this year, I've gotten more into hockey. I've been to multiple hockey games. Our city where we live has a hockey team. And every time I'm there, and these games are really well attended, and everyone's just super excited to be there. The crowd is super interactive. You know how hockey is. They're just like booing the other team the second they come out. Sometimes booing their own team if they fuck up. And it's a very family-oriented environment. And I've been going to these games and seeing the kids having so much fun and just thinking about the core memories that are being formulated for these children right now. Going to the Rail Yard Dogs at the Berglund Center in Roanoke, Virginia. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel about going to Creighton Blue Jay basketball games when I was a little kid. Even though I didn't love basketball the way my brother and my dad did, I still remember going to those games and the excitement and like all these people are here for this thing and I might get on the Jumbotron. And I'm really glad that I have those memories. And so now I go to these hockey games and I get really sentimental seeing these children there. I'm most excited for them out of all of us because I just know that they're going to carry that with them forever and it's going to be really nice. And to try to bring it all back to Love and Basketball, the movie we are here to talk about, I think what we have just been talking about, this sense of community and this deep abiding love for the game, love for your team, hope that the sport can provide. I think that is all, you can feel that in this movie. Playing basketball sustains Monica. When she's doing it, you can just feel that it is the thing she most wants to be doing at that given moment. And we see how this process of joining this new team in college and struggling to fit in at first and find her place, and then eventually like work hard and get better and grow closer to her teammates and prove herself on this team. Doing that process helps her become a better person in ways that extend beyond just sports. And I feel that watching the movie. And I think that is true of sports in life also.
Well said.
Thank you. Basically, I don't know. Go support your small local minor league sports team.
Yeah.
whatever sport it is. Go watch your local dodgeball rec league. They would love to have people come watch them.
Or like roller derby.
Roller derby. Do you know Drew Barrymore directed a movie about a roller derby team?
No.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's on my long list of movies we could cover.
Sweet.
It's called Whip It.
Nice.
That's all I know. And it's about girls who do roller derby. And Drew Barrymore directed it.
Drew Barrymore is wonderful. Okay.
This conversation felt good. It was nice to feel good.
Yeah, it was nice to not be like, okay, this was fucked up. This was fucked up. This was fucked up.
This vampire baby plotline made no sense. I'm so glad we had no vampire babies in this movie. Just cute little human babies. That baby at the end is really cute.
Oh, cute as hell. Yeah,
So cute.
She makes the little basket.
Yeah.
And it's like a real baby. She's like a real baby.
Not a weird
CGI baby. Oh, dude. Our next, at least the next two films after this too are, I can't wait for you to watch My Old Ass.
Yes. That's our next movie. It's My Old Ass, which is a recent movie that I still haven't seen, but I heard good things from multiple people about it, including Maggie. So I'm excited to talk about that. What does this movie, Love and Basketball, make you want to tell your younger self?
So I've already established that I grew up in this very sports-oriented family. And it's not necessarily just that they're sports-oriented, but there is a level of competition involved. Yes, the teamwork was important. That was number one, like doing this for your team and winning for your team. And so I was expected to play some sports because it's good for you to learn how to work in community. The sports I chose was the swim team.
Okay.
And then cross country.
Oh, boy.
So two sports that are as solitary as can be as far as sports go. Like the way that you're competing, cross country can get a little brutal.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, like the way that you're meant to be competing is, yes, it's for your team, but also you're not passing a ball. You have to have this sort of like intrinsic motivation. When you're swimming, you're in that lane by yourself. Even if it's a relay race, you're in the lane by yourself. I enjoy those kinds of movements. But what was missing for me always is like this competitive gene. The last year I was on the swim team, I really wanted to be on the swim team because I just liked hanging out and then like swimming. But I didn't actually want to compete. So my mom actually asked the coach if I could just like be on the swim team. They would pay for me to be there and everything, but then to just not have me compete in the meets because I hated that. I had no interest in it. And she's like, well, it's kind of the point. And then I was like, well, I'm not doing this anymore then. I realized what I liked about it, what I liked about those sports is the ritual of them. And so I've always understood exactly what my dad meant by saying that's not the point, right? The point isn't for them to win. The point is to just watch them play and hope that maybe they will. I guess what I would tell myself is my younger self is that that's okay. That you have, I don't know, you just weren't given this sort of like gene that makes you want to win things. And not that there's anything wrong with that either, but it just like isn't who you are. But the way that you interact with your environment and with other people through these rituals and through these communities is the point at the end of the day.
Really nice. What does this movie make me want to tell my younger self? I guess the thing I really appreciate about this movie, especially when you compare it to other movies centered around sports, is that this movie is really attuned to the ebb and flow of time. Obviously, there are time jumps in it, but I really like that Monica and Q break up and spend 5 years apart and get back together when they're adults. Because one, going to college with your high school boyfriend and then being with him forever straight from that, I can't abide by it. When I was 18, it would have been a different story. You can't convince an 18-year-old that they shouldn't do that, you know? But now as a 27-year-old, I'm like, yeah, that was necessary to take that time apart. Even if the circumstances in which they came apart were unfortunate. And I think my younger self would have had a really hard time. And to an extent, I still do have a hard time with accepting that the passage of time is often sensible and is often able to give us what is best for us, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. And I really appreciate the ways we see that happening in this movie, both with Quincy and Monica's interpersonal relationship and their relationship to basketball. That's what I would tell my younger self, is that ultimately I think the ebb and flow of time is always on your side, which is so corny, but I think I believe it. And so it's the aphorism I'm going to stick with.
I love it. I don't think it's corny. I like that line, actually. It's very true. It is true.
Thanks. Alrighty. Well, thank you for listening. I just did a grand gesture. Watch this movie if you haven't. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Listen to the soundtrack, which is also phenomenal. We would love it if you subscribe to the show on your podcast listening platform of choice. Turn on post notifications so you don't ever miss an episode. We have social media accounts, but
depending on when you're listening to this, our social media account will be active or inactive. We are in the process of a rebrand, but you can still find us at Girlhood Movie Database on Instagram. And you can find me on Instagram at _Saint_Margaret_.
And you can email us at girlhoodmoviedatabase@gmail.com.
Yes.
If you have thoughts about sport or film or anything, really.
Yeah.
Send them our way. And if you want to join our book club, you can. There's a link for that in the bio of our Instagram account, or you can copy and paste the link I will put in the show notes below.
Our next episode, we will be talking about My Old Ass. It's good. You should watch it.
Woo. Okay. And then I hope whatever your team is, I hope they're doing good. And if they did bad this year, there's always next year.
Well, there's always this year too.
And there's this year. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I think I was 11 the first time I watched Love and Basketball with my mom. She told me that it was one of her favorites, and that I think I might have said something about, I remember maybe I didn't want to watch it because it was about basketball. She really loves sports movies, and I often had to watch them with her. It was not always my favorite thing. I usually ended up liking them, though. I'm mainly thinking of Remember the Titans as the other one. I don't know. So I don't know. I guess I was feeling stubborn that day, but we were doing laundry, and she was like, I want to watch this movie. I really love this movie. And I remember thinking as a kid that Quincy and Monica were both very beautiful to me. I still think that they both are very beautiful. I got to watch two beautiful people play a sport that I did not have the capability of playing, and they fell in love. And my mom really liked the movie, so as a kid, I think that was all I was really paying attention to at the time. I do remember feeling like I got really upset as their relationship unfolded and he was so mad at her for not skipping curfew. I remember telling my mom, and I'm 11, well, why would he get mad at her for that? Because, he plays basketball too. Why doesn't he understand? She was like, I know. And I asked her recently about why she liked this movie so much. And as a child, I didn't really think to ask why or what she liked about it, but she said that Monica had a man's goal, a man's dream, and there wasn't really a place for that, but she made her place for that. And that the final scene, you get to see him being her cheerleader and with the kid on the sidelines, and that it was really sweet, which I agree with, but we just watched it again recently. And I, of course, as an adult, you notice a lot more about things, but just the double standard as how there was just this expectation of, yeah, you're going to be this woman in my life, and I like the fact that you like the same sport as me and that you're good at it, and how that looks for me to have this partner who plays the sport and is good at it, but also it doesn't matter the same way for you. And when I need you to not put basketball first and not care about that, you have to care about me more. And one of the things that we talked about was also his relationship with his parents and seeing how, I mean, not that his mother was playing basketball, but just in that relationship, that kind of hyper masculinity, I guess, how it affected his mother and the consequences that it had on his parents' relationship, and seeing her so hurt by this person that he had looked up to all of his life. His character made me a lot more angry as a 26-year-old. I also was able to think differently about his relationship with his dad and how life-altering that kind of betrayal is in your family dynamic. Not to take away from that or anything, but just for it to be that one moment that, she was a ball player in the same way that he was a ball player, and for it to be held against her that way, and to span this, I think it was a 5-year breakup or absence, I guess, between them. I understand the competitive nature of their relationship and how that had been at play between them, but I felt like she was the one that was reaching out every time, and he did not initiate that at all. And I don't know, as an adult, it was something that I noticed. Like, she initiated the first time that they kissed, and she went to see him after his injury, and she was the one that wanted to play the game. And all I could think about also, they were playing this game, is if she had not initiated that, he would have married Tyra Banks' character. And then also, for this game that they're playing, I kept thinking about Tyra Banks' character, because regardless of the outcome, okay, like if Monica had lost and he stayed with Tyra Banks, do you one day find out randomly that your spouse had played this game with this woman that he had told you was his childhood friend? You had no understanding of the relationship that was between them. So he played the game that could have possibly meant that you didn't get married. Or 2 weeks before you're supposed to be married, he just tells you, actually, I am not doing this. I'm going to go be with this woman that I told you was my friend when I was a child. I felt really bad for her character. And you just never see her again either. I also think as an adult, I was paying a lot more attention to the relationship between Monica and her mother, especially thinking about watching this movie with my mom as a girl and the tension between them. I liked the scene where they're standing in the kitchen and talking, and her mom says that, oh, all of these people were at your games. It didn't matter if I was there or not. And Monica's like, of course it mattered. And I think the actress that plays her mom does a really good job with her facial expressions in that moment. I think you can see that hitting her. And then you have the scene where her mom tells her, when I said that he could do better, I meant you. But I also still feel like Monica had to be the one to first display that vulnerability. I don't know. I just was thinking about Monica and having to be open and vulnerable in that way first with the people in your life. Watching this movie as an adult also made me realize, or remember, I guess, how much I love the song Candy Girl. That was also something that, like, my mom and I would play in the kitchen, washing dishes, or if I was helping with dinner, or sometimes just doing homework or in the car. We spent a lot of time in the car, and we were always looking for music. She, a lot of times, would play, she had these WoW worship CDs. This has nothing to do with love and basketball, but that is the only, like, religious music that I will listen to anymore, and it's just because of the nostalgia associated with it. But we also did listen to Candy Girl a lot in the car. She had one of those Chrysler Town and Country minivans, and we would just sing Candy Girl at the top of our lungs going to Walmart, which was lovely.